So, if you ever find yourself involved in a hit-and-run accident where you are the guilty party, it seems that you could well get away with it by claiming accident amnesia, as Norfolk Armed Response Officer did following a hit-and-run recently. At the beginning of June, it was reported that on the 5th of March 2022, on the A146 Barnaby Bends near Lowestoft, PC Karl Warren was on duty in a marked BMW X5 when he rammed into the back of an Audi A1 at 50 miles an hour, damaging the other car. The Audi driver then pulled into the next safe place to stop, expecting the police car to do the same, but Warren just kept on driving. Now, Warren wasn't even alone in the police vehicle. In fact, he had a passenger, another police constable who, oddly, also didn't report the accident until the following day, which unfortunately meant that Warren could not be tested for alcohol. PC Warren was eventually investigated for criminal charges of failing to stop or report an accident and driving without due care and attention, along with misconduct proceedings, but the charges were later dropped after an internal report said that PC Warren had suffered an episode of transient global amnesia, which apparently wiped his memory of the collision. How handy. Norfolk police say that Warren has since had his firearms and driving permits revoked and now works in an administrative role, which you might think is the best place for him, but even in an admin role, suffering from so-called transient global amnesia could mean that he goes on to use that excuse for something else he fucks up on, and he's likely to get away with it again. Also, this could have had an effect on his police work prior to the crash, and so should really call into question any criminal prosecutions or court cases he may have been involved in, especially where he's had to give evidence. Warren's passenger, PC Ryan Hargrave, allegedly is still facing a misconduct hearing for not immediately reporting the incident or following proper procedures, such as failing to breathalyse his colleague at the time of the incident. The driver of the Audi that Warren ran into said that she noticed the police BMW, which was not responding to an emergency call and did not have its sirens or blue lights on at the time, speeding up behind her. There was nowhere to go, she said. I took hold of my steering wheel tightly and was preparing for the collision from behind. It was a large jolt which has caused me to jolt forward in my driving seat. I could feel my vehicle being shunted forward, even though both vehicles were travelling along the road. She said she was shaken up, but put her hazard lights on and then pulled into the forecourt of a car wash, expecting the police vehicle to pull in behind her, but it simply drove straight by. She took the registration number down and said she burst into tears. The subsequent investigation did find that the crash was no fault of the woman, thanks largely to the fact it was caught on police car dashcam. PC Hargrave, the passenger in the police vehicle, told investigators that immediately after the collision, he asked his colleague, "What happened there, and are you not going to stop?" However, PC Warren had just shrugged his shoulders and shook his head at me with a bit of a nonchalant expression on his face and continued to drive. He said the pair spoke no more about the collision, but he said he had expected PC Warren to report it when they arrived at their destination, but he didn't. He said, "I feel completely that I didn't do the right thing at the time. There were plenty more actions that I could have taken, and I feel bad that there was such a delay. It went on more at the time than it should have done. I feel bad I didn't check on the other person's welfare or get the vehicle turned around or challenge the other officer." PC Warren's excuse was to tell investigators that he had simply no recollection of the incident. He admitted as a police driver he should have stopped, exchanged details, notified a supervisor and been breathalyzed. But he also told police investigators, "I haven't stopped and reported it because I have no recollection of it happening, and I believe that's due to the fact that I have had an episode of transglobal amnesia." So he told investigators that he had this transient global amnesia, not exactly a condition that many will have heard of, which makes me wonder how he knew he had this condition at the time. I mean, I've had several strokes and I didn't know that I'd had one until after the event and was told by a medical professional after tests. For Warren to say that that's what he had, either he must have had this already, in which case he should have been noted on his police record and should never have been given a firearm permit or allowed to drive, which means he could have given false or misleading information in order to get a driving licence and firearms permit, which I find hard to believe, as someone must have noticed this condition before, or his arse fell out after the accident and he looked up what could have been a good excuse. Now, I did do a quick check on Google. I typed in, "What condition makes you not remember a situation?" And the third link, although the second link mentioned it too, but the third link says that transient global amnesia, a temporary syndrome where you experience both retrograde and anterograde amnesia. Memory loss is sudden and only lasts up to 24 hours, which oddly enough, out of the 5 types of amnesia listed, is the least serious one, which can be related to recent events. Not suspicious at all. But the good thing is the Mayo Clinic website says it's extremely rare to have a second episode of transient global amnesia, and so shouldn't be able to use the excuse again. Not that that will stop a copper from trying anything to get out of trouble. I have to say this is probably the most bullshit excuse I've ever heard from a copper, but alas, I'm not a doctor, so can't prove it's bullshit, so you will have to decide for yourself. However, a great mitigating argument should you find yourself in a similar situation. Not that I'm suggesting anybody lies to cover up a criminal offence.